Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the City of Powell Committee of the whole meeting for Tuesday, January 19th. But it's not the bad public news today. I'm not putting me in this day. So, adoption of the agenda. We have one correction under 5.4. That's in reference to variance permit at 36 Penny Lane. I think it was another address, so make that change when we get to 5.4. Are there any additions to the agenda? Hearing none, so I have a motion to adopt the agenda. All in favor? Okay. Adoption of the minutes of the meeting of December 15th, 2015. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. Delegation. First, we're going to hear from Thoms, Manager of Emergency Services, Powell Regional District, regarding emergency program act engagement and consultation.
I believe you all received the discussion paper from the province, and I hope you had a chance to review it. We just received it last week. For many years, we've been in emergency management circles, taking a lot of discussion about the need to update the act. It's well over 20 years old now, and much has changed in emergency management, so that in itself is good news. But I think what's in there is really important for all local authorities, for everybody to understand. It's very good in there that will impact local authorities, city nations, private sector, and communities in our district. It hasn't been a lot of time. We only really received it last week, and unfortunately, the province has given us a deadline on February 19th in order to get some kind of feedback. Meeting with the emergency managers across Vancouver Island is hopeful tomorrow, and it will be on our agenda to see if we can get update on this. But certainly just in the time we've had to look at it, looking from the definition of emergency in British Columbia, the definition of key nation of a local authority, which is a gap that hasn't been met. Roles and responsibility of the province, more onus on EMDC to lead versus other ministries. Also discussions about local authorities directly, and discussions being about what such an local authority would need more responsibility. And be able to do more quickly in EMDC. Certainly something we've been looking for. There is words to mitigation, something that Councillor Appiello and the CEO there have been working on. Is there something in there for local authorities where the province will have a responsibility to do more for mitigation beyond what it is currently? The ability to order local authorities to produce more plans. There's also interestingly a discussion of private sector. There certainly is nowhere in the zoning act, and that's something that we've run into locally, whether it's transportation, fuel, food, much of this, of course, in the domain of the private sector, and there's no authority for local government emergency services to do much in that regard short of the declaration of a state of local emergency from the county. So there's really no authority, and that will be interesting to see. So again, business continuity planning is something that to make some planning happen. And declarations also, and that's touching on civil liberties and involving government as well, what happens there, and I think that's an important element of emergency management. So it's a lot to digest, and we've had less than a week to see it, and that's about what I've had too. So a lot of it isn't surprising to see, but there is an opportunity for engagement. And so really I want to present that to you, give you a chance to read through it, and if you have any questions at this point to help guide back towards some kind of engagement in response to the province.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Selfcat.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks, Ryan. And I did read this since it's a particular interest to me as well. So The only questions that come to mind is, I guess if I read it 2 or 3 times, it might not have seemed so verbose, but it certainly is in kind of legalistic language, and that takes a couple of read-throughs for me to really grasp the nuances. And I'm very glad to hear your take, which seems so positive, and particularly some of the things that you mentioned are definitely, from my standpoint, in my day job, steps forward as well. But some wording on page 12 gave me the sense that there is perhaps room here for a slide in it's the bottom left-hand paragraph in financial responsibility. So I'm just wondering if you noticed any suggestion of that. Like, do you see? Is there written into this the ability for the problems to slide financial responsibility down to regions? Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but just want to have eyes open.
I think that, Chair, I think that's a very, that's of course a very big potential. That should be a concern, again, all the more reason. And again, the province is soliciting feedback, so along with obviously an interest in mitigation, that I would recommend should be part of this. What's reading into it there, I'm not sure at this point. So I think this is the opportunity for local governments now to speak, and probably request that there isn't more without support from the province. And that was something, if you go back to the Ontario report, that did talk about that. That did talk about, we have a bit of not just in British Columbia, but it's very common where the response costs that are generally 100% reimbursable from the province don't necessarily give a carrot where it needs to happen to do mitigation. If you know that you can be 100% reimbursed for your response costs, but no money for mitigation. So just wait for the response. And it doesn't help the public health, safety, and environment and stuff like that. So those are important comments. I don't have an answer, obviously.
Okay, Councillor Scatzer.
Thank you. Through the chair, this report makes me think about the proposal that Councillor Hathaway you brought forward regarding the seismic mitigation funding and getting the funding through existing taxation, but sequestering it specifically for seismic mitigation of emergency buildings, and the province has come back with a response not favorable to our request. So it seems to me that maybe this report, is, as you say, there's a lot more responsibility on local authority. It seems like, we've come up with a proposal that would help with this, and they're saying no. So this report says we want more involvement with local authority, but we're not going to supply you with the money. So I'm not sure where we're going to go with that response. I think you've met with the or our meeting with emergency response people about
We have done all that, and we don't go away easily.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have another plan.
Good. But it seems to me that goes hand in hand, and for them to come up, publish this report and then at the same time deny, a reasonable solution without increasing taxation seems unsurprising, unfortunately.
Okay. Anybody else? Before I have just a couple of things to say.
I have one more quick one.
Okay,
This may be a bit nitpicky detail-wise, but on page 18 of the report, it says authority to fast-track accreditation of medical or other essential personnel from Canadian jurisdictions. To my knowledge, most first responders are already individually certified, like fire, ambulance, I would imagine police too. Like, who would they be referring to in this?
Again, if I come to the chair, I'm not sure. I have that one flagged myself too as a question mark, and I'll speak to some colleagues tomorrow. I really don't understand that. To me, I'm not sure what barriers are in the way. This is interjurisdictional or beyond British Columbia, I believe.
Yeah, great, thanks.
So one of the things that jumps out for me is on the civil liberties side, is they want to give authority to the authorities. If somebody chooses not to evacuate, to apprehend, like, whoa, that's huge. And it just jumps out there. Like, I mean, people have choices. So, and I don't know why somebody wouldn't evacuate when they're told their life is in danger, but really, can we take away that choice from somebody through legislation? I'm not sure. So that's one of the concerns for me. The other thing, how do we want to handle this? I certainly would want to have some feedback from the city of how we feel about it, as you bring up the lack of funding, that sort of thing. And you probably want to provide feedback from your response group, or what do you see as the best route for us to go in preparing a response to it?
Well, I think that's the challenge, given the timeline. It would have been nice to have had a couple months here to play it through exactly and go to the various committees. The timing isn't bad for here. I go to the regional committee of the whole later this week. TLAM and Chief and Council may not work within this timeline. That's unfortunate. That's the challenge for us, I think, is to try to get where, even just digesting it, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. I think if you'd like to direct staff with some timelines in order to get back, or if we'd like to meet again when there's been time to digest this. February 19th is our day, 4 o'clock, I think it is the deadline to get the input in.
Sure, and there's ways we could provide input via email personally, but I kind of like the idea of getting together and sort of having a discussion, but...
Yeah, again, and even for our emergency planning group, it's all taken up by a seismic engineer who's up this week. No time to react is a bit of a frustration in this regard.
Mr. Fraser.
Through the chair, I think Ryan's very professionally coming to you with the most heads-up time you can get. You do meet as committee of the whole again on the 2nd of Feb, so there is time to respond on that. I think you want to take stock of when Ryan compares notes with his colleagues on the island tomorrow. If I could suggest that Ryan produces a draft response on behalf of the region, and then you would have a chance to take a boo at that on the 2nd of February and sign off. I think it's very powerful if at least 2, if not 3, of the local government jurisdictions have a chance to say this is our input.
So does that work for you?
I think that would work. Again, even that's a tough timeline, but I think if we can put our minds to the real priorities for Powell River, I think is probably the real highlights we want to try to grab at.
Okay, excellent. And everybody else can go home and have a reread, and if something jumps out at you, to certainly let Ryan know.
Would it be worthwhile to send a message to the government saying this is too quick for us? Can we get an extension? Can they give them a, you know?
The rush is that the minister has to have a report done by June. So we're not the only ones left.
Yeah, but even the end of February would give, I don't know, is it worth asking the question?
Through the chair, that's a real good question. I asked it of the Assistant Deputy Minister about 45 minutes ago, which is why I just slipped in here before start time. And Councillor Hathaway is exactly right. They're a bit squeezed. They're trying to do justice to consultation, but they do have time to meet. He did say that an input after the 19th, they would try and do justice to it, but they really, for their purposes, and I expect that your group is going to have a connect with the ADM, right? So he's looking for that as an option. So we could, but I think, quite frankly, I think we have this huge benefit that this is Ryan's primary focus at the moment. He knows our region, he knows our issues. We have confidence in him. I think we can generate something. It's what I understand from Ryan in conversation with him the other day and catching now is you're not entirely sure where a legislative intent like this is ultimately going to end up. There is a concern that they can make changes to the Act and have the best of intentions and things sit on the shelf rather than get funded and implemented. And I think Councillor Southcott was speaking to that about, you know, that where is this going? I think we have an opportunity for Ryan to produce a draft for your consideration. And if I could, the returning members of council will remember that last term of office for council, there was a general discontent with emergency management PC and their lack of communications, and how, quite frankly, at the local level, we seem to be better organized and plugged in throughout the whole province than our provincial compatriots were. This revision goes a long way. The creation of Minister Yamamoto's portfolio, the mandate letter, again concerns that it will actually manifest. But I think I would suggest that the RD and the city might like to make sure that the response says, good start, you know, good on you, province, because they are making efforts. How they're getting there, I think, Ryan, you said the act hasn't been changed in 30 plus years?
Early 90s.
Early 90s, so 15, 20 years pushing it. So I would just caution, you know, that it's a good start and they're not an end. And you and I met with the minister and the deputy minister and the ADM. They're putting an effort into it, they're putting the resources. So.
Good. And I'd be appreciative if we could do that February 2nd date, because I'm going away after that for 2 weeks, so. Shouldn't be
Poor
involved.
thing.
That, I know, it's just selfish of me, but if we could do that, I would appreciate it. So shall we aim for that then, a report on the 2nd?
Yeah, and if I could suggest through the chair that Ryan generate a draft that you can see in advance and speak about on the 2nd.
Yep.
Are you feeling crunched?
We'll work on it.
Okay.
Write it tonight, see if your friends like it tomorrow.
We
Thank
won't
you very
take
much.
marks off for punctuation or spelling, don't worry about that.
Thank you.
Okay, and then next we have a letter under correspondence from Naomi Yamamoto, the Minister of State for Emergency Preparedness. So it's under her leadership that this report's been done. And it basically just tells us about the report. So, motion is to note and file. Councillor Hushman, Councillor Brewer, all in favor? Carried. Okay, report dated January 19th, 2016 from the Director of Infrastructure regarding Traffic Bylaw 2412-2016.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council, good afternoon. This is an update to our current traffic bylaw that dates back to 1978. We did have some amendments to that, but this bylaw, if you read through it, you can tell that it is very dated, 37 years in the making. So time for a review. So what we did when we went through to carry out this review, we kept in mind some of the issues that had come up through council, and we tried to address those issues, as well as do a total rewrite, get rid of any redundancies with the Motor Vehicle Act, clean up areas where if we are not going to enforce it with our existing bylaws officers, then we leave it to the Motor Vehicle Act and the RCMP. So if I can go through some of the points that came up in council. One was with respect to traffic calming and preparing an implementation plan for traffic calming. We did not include traffic calming in this draft of the traffic bylaw because there's not a one-size-fits-all solution for traffic calming. And bylaws obviously aren't the best place to address these types of traffic concerns. But what we do have is operational procedures for addressing traffic calming requests. And we've got a workflow process, so it includes everything from monitoring traffic speeds to doing warrants for, if it's a request for a crosswalk and that type of activity. So traffic calming is not included directly in this bylaw. We had in September of 2013 direction to investigate the creation and implementation of a bylaw to permit the use of low-speed vehicles on city streets. We did a fair amount of research on that, and one of the big things that came up was Transport Canada doesn't encourage the use of low-speed vehicles on public streets. They recommend that the environment for low-speed vehicles is on roads that are free of traditional traffic, so almost separate roadways, just because of the construction of the low-speed vehicles. They lead the drivers to be very vulnerable to full-size and full-weight vehicles on the street. So at this time, we have not allowed the accommodation of low-speed vehicles. If the demand does increase, then we can consider it at that time, but at this time it's not included in the bylaw. As well, back in 2013, we worked on the creation of a truck route, and we had input from trucking companies, local trucking companies, to look at truck routes for the city, and I believe that the drawing for the truck route was to be.
It was distributed.
So as well, like I had said before, the restrictions on commercial vehicles for weight, length, and width are omitted from the bylaw because A, we don't have the tools to enforce those regulations, and we have RCMP and commercial vehicle safety officers to carry out those duties as part of the Motor Vehicle Act, with restrictions to those oversized vehicles. As well, in May of the past year, we had some issues with a resident on Willingdon Avenue with respect to speeding on that roadway and no parking in the driveway. There is provisions within this bylaw to allow for enforcement of vehicles blocking driveways, and as far as speed is concerned, we have the RCMP to carry out that enforcement. So like I had said before, we removed the sections that are redundant to the Motor Vehicle Act, and unless we wanted to have further restrictions like the truck route, we had attempted to remove all duplications to the Motor Vehicle Act from the bylaw. But it still allows us to, there's certain clauses in there that our bylaws officers are allowed to enforce, as well as the RCMP. One big distinction from the existing bylaw to what we're proposing here, the existing bylaw doesn't allow parking on boulevards, although in our town you see it everywhere. So our proposed bylaw would no longer restrict vehicles that are insured. So only uninsured vehicles would be restricted from parking on the boulevard. So that would derelict vessels or vehicles couldn't just be left on the boulevard at this point. Enforcement. Right now, we have to issue a notice of violation, and that is very onerous. And in essence, we have to go through and do a court summons and attend a court hearing. What we're recommending doing is moving to the MTI process, so that that the process is much simpler to enforce. We don't have the detail within this draft of it, but on the return of Madam Clerk, she will be working on that aspect of it. Same thing with the fines. We don't have fines listed in the current bylaw, but we do recommend that specific fines for violations impacting public safety, causing damage to roads, or causing obstructions on roads would be created. So if council concurs with this approach, then we'll present a draft fine schedule for the review for the next traffic bylaw discussion. We've added what we'd like to look at is the aspect of having a designated staff person to allow ticket cancellation. At this time, that's not is not permitted within the existing bylaw. So we're seeking council's direction regarding under which circumstances an authorized staff person may cancel a ticket. And we've outlined a few areas where we could see the cancellation being allowed. Bike lanes. Now that we have a number of bike lanes in our town, concerns that have come up are with vehicles parking in those said lanes and blocking the flow of traffic. We reviewed other traffic bylaws such as Vancouver and Victoria and looked at how they enforce people parking in bike lanes. And they essentially use the Motor Vehicle Act where any vehicle is prohibited from stopping or parking on a highway in a position that obstructs the free passage of traffic. And traffic includes bicycles. So therefore, RCMP or our bylaws officers could ticket. What we'd like to do, obviously, is educate people first, and that's what we're working on currently. And then if that doesn't work, then we can impose fines. We have, in this bylaw, it's there's a lot of delegation of authority, and that at this time in this draft, the delegation of authority goes to myself, the Director of Infrastructure, to make some decisions on traffic. So you can see the sections that are laid out. We also have a section 42 where it allows for the appeal to council of a decision by myself, so that if somebody following myself was heavy-handed, that that decision could be appealed. So at this time, what we want to do is have a review of it. If there's any concerns with this traffic bylaw, we don't want to. It's a pretty intensive document. But if there's any comments that that council has with respect to that, we can come back at the next at a subsequent committee of the whole to review those issues. So that's the direction we're looking for at this point.
Very good. Any questions? Councilor Zeltop?
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for all the work on this. And it says, which is highly believable, because, wow.
We've probably spent more.
No,
and there's been a number of reviews with our legal counsel as well. We've had numerous meetings between engineering staff and administration, and discussions with the fire department and RCMP with respect to this too.
So I was initially going to take some exception with the point 2 about the low-speed vehicles until I started doing some research myself, and then found out that it's, from a safety standpoint, it's like you mentioned, it's really a bad idea. But also it's interesting that this came up in 2013, and it's possible that since then, the whole reason for encouraging low-speed vehicles, which probably is a cost incentive for people to get into electric cars, has kind of gone by. You can buy a used Leaf now, that like 3-year-old Nissan Leaf, which is an electric vehicle, for less than a new low-speed vehicle. And possibly partly because of that, they're not being manufactured in Canada like they were a few years ago. So the whole market's gone. It's just like something that went by. Not even the advocacy organization that I have a connection with in Vancouver recommends low-speed vehicles, even though I found that there are probably about 8 or 10 municipalities, mostly on Vancouver ground, that have their own bylaws
Yes.
allowing low-speed vehicles. But this one from Qualicum that I happened to print out was done up in 2008, so they're all redundant now, or like useless. I'm a little worried about the bike lane issue, because now I sort of see I really hope that we're not going to have wars between cyclists and people who want to park their vehicles. And having ridden a fair bit in Vancouver, usually the bike lanes are either dedicated bike corridors where the entire streets parallel to the main arteries are dedicated to bicycles with traffic calming, so it's really not good for cars. Don't drive down them anymore, and but they have the streets there for bicycles to run parallel. I use those and they work beautifully. We don't have that here. Secondly, where there are bike lanes, they are actually between traffic and parking areas, which it seems like it's going to be difficult for us to achieve here as well.
Yes.
So that leaves the problem of now clash between people who want to park their cars and
In our experience to date with respect to people parking on the bike lane, it doesn't happen too often. We've noticed 1 or 2 cars, the bylaws officers have made visits and let them know that parking is restricted. We haven't had many complaints come back. Initially, when we had notified the neighborhood, say on Manson Avenue, there was we had a few residents complain that that they were going to miss out on the parking, but that really hasn't come to fruition. We've only seen 1 or 2 vehicles over that period that parked there at this time. Jeremy, any?
Yeah, through the chair, there's, at first when we put in the bike lanes early this or in the summer, there was about 5 cars consistently parked in the bike lanes, mainly in the section where it's sidewalk on both sides and the bike lanes are a little bit wider. Those cars, after our bylaws communicated with the residents and family members, whoever it may have been, seem to disappear. There is about 4 cars now on a nightly basis that park near the Jehovah's Witness Hall, and those are pretty consistent. But again, it's late in the evening, our bylaws aren't around, so they really haven't made any communications with them. It appears through talking with residents on Manson that once there is a little bit more motivation, possibly in terms of a fine or something a little more aggressive than just education, that they'll probably will no longer park there. But right now, the occasional letter that people I've spoken to that actually do park there, say it's a letter in my car that I put in the recycling and I'll think twice about it. But if there's a monetary incentive, they'll likely change their perspective.
thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor Leishman?
Thank you, through the chair. So just the clarification on the boulevard. So if a vehicle is insured, it can park on the boulevard. Does that include boat trailers?
Boat trailers as well, if it's insured.
As long as it's insured. Okay.
Through
That's
the
the
chair,
designation.
key phrase being boat trailer, not boat.
But boat trailer with a boat on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On occasion, we have boats parked.
Boat
So do we want to instruct staff to continue to finalize this?
Yep.
Councilor Palmer, sorry.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just had one question reading through the report, and I want to congratulate you on all the fine work you've done here. Start the new year off right. But one thing that intrigued me was when it comes to fines and enforcement is your reference to municipal ticket information system. And I see the costs associated with what you're recommending here are minimal. So is there no cost to that item?
To the, sorry.
Municipal ticket information system?
Well, it's a process that we currently use. I'm probably not the best person to speak on the MTI process. Madam Clerk is the one that is
She's
totally apprised on it, yeah. So in essence, what I see is you establish a fine for various infractions. And so then you can issue a fine, and only if they appeal is there a process to take the appeal to court. So the process is a lot quicker to receive the
So it's simply
fine.
a paper process, right?
Not a computer.
It's not hiring a collection agency?
No. It's using, actually, with the MTI process, not only can the bylaws officers write those tickets, but there's various people in our organization that have been delegated that authority as well. And I could potentially write a ticket. I believe a few of our other managers can write tickets for that, for the MTI.
Through the chair, what the director said is exactly right. Also, an MTI for a bylaw enforcement to be eligible under the MTI, the bylaw has to be registered with the court. So the court gets to give a nod to say, okay, if you act within the bounds of this bylaw, yes, you are authorized to have an MTI. So it's almost a warrant from the court, which we have to abide by very carefully, but it truncates the process very quickly.
Thank you for that clarification.
Go back to staff personalization then.
Yep.
Thank you.
Your Worship, if we could just make sure the truck map is included next time it comes back to us.
Okay, next report 5.2, report dated January 19th, 2016 from the Director of Infrastructure regarding the replacement of boiler systems.
So in 2014, we had an energy audit done for City Hall, Dwight Hall, and the Service Center. At that point, the boilers were identified for replacement with more efficient units that are eligible for Fortis incentives, and then obviously significant gas savings per year. So in March of 2015, Council approved $133,000 for the replacement of City Hall, Dwight Hall, and the Service Center. And as well, in that same budget year, we allocated $40,000 for the Cranberry Training Center boiler. And that was to come from our building replacement fund. Later on in that year, when we went out for proposals to complete design drawings, the consultant at that time said that our estimates provided from a previous consultant were very undervalued. So now that cost, instead of being $133,000, is $291,000. So obviously the payback is a lot longer than what was initially proposed, but nonetheless, we still would see savings of over $10,000 per year if we were to replace these, and the payback is on average just over 5 years. So these boilers range in age from 14 to 25 years that we have. And the estimates out there are the average economic lifespan of a boiler is between 15 and 20. So we're going far beyond the useful life of these boilers. In fact, the one at the Cranberry Training Center is it's past due. It's at any point that boiler could fail. So what we're looking for is additional funding of $118,000, and the Community Works Fund for the community energy systems could be utilized to fund this difference. So we're looking for direction whether or not to proceed with the boiler replacements.
Okay, any questions? Councillor Palmer?
So, through the chair, Your Worship, we have a scope of scale situation here where you're looking at either replacing all 4 or possibly 3. Can you just elaborate a little bit on costs associated if we were to go with just 3?
Well, one of the other things that we can look at, if obviously we still require further funding, is the service center boiler is not as old as the other boilers, but it still would require replacement. One of the things that we're looking into right now is using that boiler, because it still has some years left, and using it in the Cranberry Training Center, because it's a building that we no longer utilize. We lease out the space to the school district at this time. So that's one of the potentials that we could save some funding.
Councillor Scanlon?
Thank you, and thank you for the report, Mr. Burdig. Can you, I'm just curious why the Cranberry Training Center doesn't qualify for as high an incentive and why its payback is so much longer than the others?
The incentive, yeah, I'm not 100% sure on why that incentive is less. The savings per year is just because of the cost. The building is not heated
Insulated.
similar to the other buildings, like
Okay.
like here, because it's used as in essence, the bottom floor is used as a workshop, right? So
Right.
so that's why the payback is longer, just because we're not using the energy as much.
I would like to know why we wouldn't qualify for the same incentive, because the service center is the same amount, and it seems to get the $10,000 incentive, and this only gets $7,700.
Yeah, I'd have to go back to the report on that one.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Just curious, how many engineering consultants did we get proposals for on replacing boilers?
When we ended up, I believe there was 3, and then so with the low bidder, when we started working with him and his numbers, that's when we found that we were well short on our costing estimate.
So I have a question. Around the Cranberry Training Center, it's the school district that uses it as their bus depot, if I'm correct, and are they the only tenant there now?
Through the chair, we keep our bottom of the line fire truck there, and arrangements could be made for storing it elsewhere if we didn't have that building. And from time to time, we have meetings of our auxiliary firefighters there, just again out of convenience. Search and rescue is long gone in their new building, new to them. And it is sporadically used as just a general assembly area by some groups, but the day-to-day use is just school buses.
Okay. So my question kind of is, out of gas tax reserve, we're gonna take all that money and put it into a building that we rent. I don't know what kind of rent we get out of it, and there was some blockage to us selling it, was there not?
Sorry?
Some block to us selling that building? I mean, I guess the question is, why do we keep it? It's surplus to the
Through
city.
the chair, it's provincial land, and there's a crown grant for firefighting purposes. The school district had talked to us with some energy, which is now dissipated, about them amending that grant to include educational, so it'll be eligible, and swapping another building that they have. We're not interested in the other building, but it does have an antenna on it now.
A portion of an antenna.
A portion of an antenna of which we get some revenue. So it's not a money maker net, but it's making some funds for us. It's
But
still.
what about overall, when you look at, okay, now we're putting money into a new boiler, what is 118,000? The rent we get from whatever
It's
sources.
through the chair, it's still a municipal objective to deal it, to get it out of our hands.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the other issue
So-
with that is the boiler. Like I said, we're on borrowed time with the boiler. It's, we've been, for the last couple of years, we were told to replace that boiler, and we kept on putting it off because of this impending trade or sale of the building. And now we're at a point where it could go tomorrow.
So,
And we would try to sell a building without.
yeah.
Without.
Has there been any discussion with the school district for perhaps some sort of cost sharing on this? Because ultimately it would look like they would want to be the owner of the building if we could swing that. It just seems to take 118,000 put into a building that's redundant for our needs.
And as well, we have a roof that's coming for replacement as well on that building.
Yes.
So through the chair, now that we have the library all done, it is a priority with us. The challenge, of course, is that you can understand that the day the furnace stops working, perhaps, is the day that the building starts to become damaged. So it's not just a new furnace, but we have to keep the heat going. But it is our objective to strike a deal with the school district or someone else about the redundancy.
Councillor Lishman?
So I like the director's idea of using the one from the service center in the Cranberry training and then replacing the other three, because they qualify for the better incentives. So that would
Yeah, so we're looking at that potential. I haven't
That would
got
be a
an
good-
answer just yet on that.
compromise.
And what do people think about negotiating with the school district?
Worth asking.
Okay, Councillor Brewer?
Well, and the payback on installing a new one in the Cranberry Training Center is only 7 years, but if we're talking about disposing of it, maybe within the next little while here, that kind of makes sense. I'd sooner see some of those gas tax dollars going into some other initiatives that are maybe more long-term.
Councillor Southcott?
Thank you, Your Worship. I was also associated with the Ham Radio Club, and it's no longer in there. So with the intermittent use of it, I can't really think, I can't imagine that the building is heated up to more than just a low, like maybe 55, 60 degrees, something like that during. I'm wondering if the heat's even on during the summer, is it?
I don't know, I've seen, our total consumption in gas is about 2,000, it's just over $2,000.
For that building?
Or, no, it was,
Sorry, I didn't look.
it was more like $5,000 a year.
Tor, do you know if it's technically feasible to take the service center unit to the Cranberry Center? Or do you
Not
need
yet, I
permission?
don't know that information yet.
Through the chair, could I suggest that staff would take that as a priority if it's technically feasible?
Madam Clerk, did you have a question?
I just wanted to get clarification on the direction to staff that Councillor Brewer had just put forward, which was around, would you repeat what you had suggested there?
I don't know if there was direction buried in that, but
Okay, you can,
I think it was Councillor Hathaway suggested.
Well, it was the boiler from the works yard
so just to move it, to explore.
to explore that, putting it in the Cranberry Center and also discussion with school district
That's the
Who
part,
are
so
the
there's
renter?
consent
Yeah, I
to
think that was
the
me.
cost sharing with the school district.
or an investigation.
Okay.
Councillor Brewer?
One more question. So we didn't have an energy efficiency audit done on the Cranberry Center, correct?
No.
Right. So these are, the estimates here are based on working with the engineer
Yeah,
at
we
this
had,
point?
Brian Pasquili, he was the initial, so he had done some work at the complex as well as these buildings.
Okay, you feel directed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's why he's a director.
Okay, next report, 5.3, report dated January 19th, 2016, from the Director of Planning Services regarding proposed sustainable official community plan and zoning bylaw amendment and partial exclusion from the agricultural land reserve to permit development of a private school campus and dormitories, Lot A, District Lot 450, Group 1, North NWD Plan BCP 23887, excerpt part subdivided by Plan BCP 42255.
And I will declare a conflict because I worked on the plan.
Thank you. Mr. Knight.
Well, through the chair, this is a project that this committee had seen the last time going forward. And it is really regarding the sign-up rate project where you have 3 separate applications going forward. And you remember the discussion last time where it was an SOCP amendment that was actually changing the designation from the agricultural over to the employment center. It was a rezoning that was going from A2 to, at the time it was C1, and then there was the 3rd application, which was the ALR exclusion. And the real crux of the discussion was what to do about the zoning, about the C1, whether it was appropriate and all that. And what this committee decided and council confirmed was that we should give a positive response that yes, this proposal to do a campus on these 30 acres of the PRC lands is something that the city would like to see move forward, but we just need to direct staff to get clarification on the actual zoning. And I'd like to report today and through this report that I've met with the proponents for thing, and name of Scott over there, and Scott has confirmed that the applicant says yes, that really the zoning that we should be going for here that would be the most appropriate is institutions. So based on the fact that we already know what the SOCP amendment is going to be to Employment Center, we now have confirmation that they are in favor of doing the rezoning from A2 to the institution zone, the NT. Then staff have now come forward to this committee with the 2 separate bylaws in order to have this committee consider that first and second reading be granted on that. So that's the first order of this application. Now that third application is in respect to the ALR exclusion, and as you recall, that requirement is up to the proponents to do all the legwork they need with respect to all the public information, public notice, to a point that they can come to this committee as part of the public hearing for the first 2 bylaws for the SOP and the rezoning, and then have their consideration for the ALR. So what staff are looking for at this time is clear direction to be able to proceed with the introduction, first and second reading, so that we can go forward, do all the advertising that's required for the public hearings. And as well, we can notify the proponent that it's now time to start doing all the public notice they're required to do in order to facilitate the ALR exclusion. That's all I have to say, but I would point out that the proponent is also here to address any questions you may have.
Any questions?
Thank you. Through the chair, I'm just curious, so the owner right now is PRSC, and I always get confused on all of this stuff. I still, to this day, get confused on all that, but and they've got an offer on the table. So the current owner is asking for the rezoning as part of the sale to Sign Up Right, which we all hope goes through, but if it doesn't go through, would the zoning automatically revert? Or would it stay as this zoning, and then we've got this zoning on the parcel and nobody really, and PRSC still owns it?
Yeah,
just
through the
confused on
chair,
that.
we don't know the particulars in terms of the way that the deal was negotiated. Maybe that is a direct question to Scott. But as it's going forward, this thing will go for final adoption, both on the SOCP amendment and the rezoning amendment to change those 2 things. What happens afterwards, we have no control of.
Of
Through
course.
the chair?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, the land is being rezoned and redesignated regardless of the sale.
So then, if another buyer comes, we would,
The
or I guess
proponent would,
the proponent would apply for rezoning. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Councilor Southcott?
Thank you, Marcia. Was the proponent going to address your housekeeping issue in the report?
Okay, I can bring that up. I'll just walk him through the housekeeping. Did you hear the question?
No, sorry.
Oh, is it tough?
Sorry.
Okay. What was the question?
I was just wondering if you wanted to address the little housekeeping issue that's in the Director of Planning Services report. It was covered fairly well there, but it is kind of a
Loop Road.
Yeah, there's-
Oh, you're talking about the easement on the
Yeah.
property. It was granted, I believe, in 2009. We don't see it as a hindrance. The easement was, we agreed to, or PRC agreed to the easement when it was requested at the recommendation of the city planning office at the time. There's been no move to purchase that piece. The piece is registered on title, and the purchasers are aware that it's there, as they remove the subject regarding to all those claims registered on the title. And so as far as we're concerned, we're moving ahead as is with the rezoning and leaving it as is. So that's all taken care of.
Okay, sir.
Just to continue a wee bit, so basically, if the purchaser wanted to do something with that semicircular piece of property that wasn't institutional, they could simply come to us for another rezoning application.
Well, I don't think the purchaser of the property is going to do anything with the property. It's that piece of the property
Right.
itself. If the owner of the land that secured the easement in the first place wants to come to the eventual owner of the property. I know, God, we're dancing around, aren't we? If they want to come to the eventual owner of the property, the sale's completed, and buy that small portion and subdivide it and rezone it, then I'm sure that will happen.
Which doesn't look like any kind of problem, really.
The easement was allowed while it was, under the current zoning and the LR and approved, so I don't see how changing the zoning is going to change the nature of the easement as is.
Thank you.
If I may, through the chair, the reason I pointed it out is that you'll end up having essentially split zoning on a single-family residential development that's already zoned R1, so you have the existing 18 lots, then this strip of land that forms part of the sign-up right being institution, and then you have institution. Because that strip of land has the potential to probably do 3 or 4 lots, planning is just pointing out that maybe it might be better as a housekeeping item to rezone that to RM1 now, clean it up, and then somebody can come along and doesn't have to deal with the whole rezoning OCP amendment process. However, in talking with the proponents, they say, let's just get this thing moving. It's going to be institution, and whatever happens down there, which may require a SOP amendment and rezoning, let that happen, but all speed ahead on this one.
Mr. Randolph, did you want to comment?
No, I have nothing to add. That's accurate.
Explain it.
Yeah.
Councillor Skatsheim?
Thank you. And just another clarification. So we're proposing to take this to council, redesignating a portion of the land from agricultural to employment center, but it's still within the agricultural land reserve. That's a decision for the Agricultural Land Commission.
Yes.
And employment center isn't allowed zoning within the ALR?
No, what happens is employment center is an SOCP designation.
A
It's just
designation,
talking
okay,
about
not zoning,
land.
okay.
It's not zoning.
Okay.
So what happens is, this council will be essentially considering at the public hearing to grant it third reading eventually and final adoption, but you'll also want to give a resolution to the ALC to consider whether you're in favor. So it's kind of like both agencies here waiting to find out what the other one wants to do. So you're first in line, you're making a decision whether you like the intent of the amending the OCP designation and the zoning. And you're also going to consider the resolution, whether you agree with this group to go forward with the ALR exclusion. The ALC will take that whole box or barrel of, or basket I guess is better, of considerations by this council and then make their decision. So you're in the driver's seat with all of this. Then once if the ALC does grant the exclusion, then we'll go to complete the exclusion process. And then ultimately, the next thing after the SOCP amendment's done, the rezoning amendment's done, the ALRC exclusion is done, is then subdivision in order to cut the thing too. And then we'll start on with development permits and the building permits, but that's for summer.
Okay, any other questions? So this needs to go to council, correct? So to council? Thank you.
Thank you.
Go to 5.4. Okay. 5.4, this is the report dated January 19th from the Director of Planning Services regarding development variance permit. Is the number right? 189 to locate accessory buildings within
Yes, that's correct, Heather.
front yard setback of amended lot 12 at 4637 William.
This one.
Yeah, it's the 3610 green. Okay, yeah, that's the one we corrected. Thank you.
Sorry, which one were we doing?
3610 Marine, 5.4.
4637.
Oh,
That's Willingdon. There was a mistake on the heading here.
So the one that's under consideration now is the one at 3610 Marine, DVP 190.
Okay.
Or 185.
Okay, gotcha.
185, sorry.
Yeah, there's just a little confusion there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I've got that ready.
Perfect.
There were two separate items on the agenda that were duplicated.
So we've seen, through the chair, we've seen applications like this in the past and in recent past, and it's regarding allowing buildings or accessory buildings within a front yard setback. And we have the applicant today, Mr. Tony Johnson, who's applied for a variance permit to allow one existing accessory building in place, and also to allow a future shop to be constructed within the front yard setback. Now, if I could take it back a little bit here, Mr. Johnson has just finished doing a subdivision, and hopefully it's registered now?
Not quite.
Not quite, okay. And it's really a two-lot split. One of them's a panhandle. And I think within your package, you'll see the application. The parcel that's in respect to this relaxation request is on the panhandle lot. Mr. Johnson has advised planning staff that he would like to retain the existing garage that you see on your drawing. He would like to do a future shop that is not yet identified, but what we do know, it's going to be located in front of where he would ultimately like to build a single-family residence. The single-family residence, which is yet to be shown because he hasn't finalized design and all that, and there's no need to at this point, is going to be at the rear of the property with access coming by way of the lane. Engineering requires that the front yard or the legal access be by way of Marine Avenue. Servicing is by way of Marine Avenue. The frontage of the property is by way of Marine Avenue. So everything is basically oriented to Marine, even though the single-family residence will be at the back. Now, what we are asking for in order to, this is a whole thing about maintaining, streetscapes to make sure you have houses all the way along and it all looks uniform, is to ensure that we have single-family dwellings or buildings, the principal buildings or the main buildings located in the front yard and accessories in the rear. What we're looking at in this case is the reverse, where Mr. Johnson would like to have his single-family development at the rear of the property, have a future shop in the front yard of the property, and retain the existing garage in the front of the property. We have absolutely no problem with that. It's an extremely deep lot, given the nature of where it is, given the elevation gain to the back, given that you already have an existing house on lot 1, we have no problem in support of doing this, and we have no conditions that we can bring forward that would need to be resolved before issuance of a permit.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Knight on this one? Councillor Powell?
Thank you, through the chair. Just for clarification, if the house eventually gets situated at the back of the lot, would the access to parking and driveway and whatnot come from the lane?
That's a good question for you. I have a way of answering, but
It would be dual. The existing driveway, you could still drive up it. Obviously, if you were coming from the Joyce side, it would be quicker to take the alleyway in. But if you were coming along Marine, it would obviously be quicker to go up that way.
Thank you.
Councillor Selkirk?
thank you, Your Worship. Just have to say that the lot is beautiful. What you've done with it is sure has improved the appearance. I go by there regularly, and
It was a garbage dump.
yeah. And now it's so. If that's the precedent, then it's good assurance that it's going to look pretty good, which is the main concern. Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship.
Welcome. Anything else? Councillor Leishman?
I just want to say that I have no problem with this. I think this is a really good, a good thing to approve, and we really should look at making this a little more common when we revise the zoning bylaw, because there should be no issue with this.
So to council?
Council.
Okay, council.
Thank you all.
And now reports from Director of Planning Services regarding development variance. permit 190 to locate accessory building within the front yard setback of amended lot 12 at 4637 Willingdon Avenue.
And I will declare conflict because I did the plan for the proposal.
You have to stop working so
You
hard.
just, yeah. Busy bee. Zzz.
Mr. Knight.
Well, welcome. This is another variance permit similar to the other one because it's again involving the requirement or request for a front yard setback. There's a little bit of history on this one, and if you all turn to your drawing that actually shows the building, the layout in terms of where the existing residential house is fronting the water. You've got Willingdon Drive, or Willingdon right in front there, and you already have an existing dwelling, or sorry, an existing accessory building that was approved through a variance permit back in 1966. And at that time, the request was to vary the setbacks that were in place back in 1996. And in this case, they were looking for a setback requirement from 12.5 meters down to, I think it was 5 meters. Fast forward to 2016, you have a request from the applicants to do a second accessory building adjacent or attached to this first accessory building with a setback from it, essentially from the rear yard, or sorry, from the front yard, because of Willingdon, a 5.5 meters. So again, you've already have something established. You almost have an established streetscape in that area that has most of the accessory buildings fronting the front of the things, and you have the main buildings to the rear of the problems. Now, in review of this, these drawings, staff had some difficulty in that we're not sure that the actual legal plan that's to the north, where this applicant is going to get access onto her property, because you can imagine there's not going to be any way to go from Willingdon right to the house, because there's going to be one solid block of 2 accessory buildings. Right now, they're basically going on the adjacent property and then into this. What the plan shows, as if there's a little bit of a bump out of 1.22 meters onto the adjacent property, giving you the sense that that is being legally done. We can find nothing in reviewing any legal plans that say that there's nothing but 2 existing rectangular properties there, which means that there's no 1.22 bump out there. So that raises a couple of concerns. One is that in addition to not having the proper bump out to do a driveway over the neighboring property, there's no mutual access easement that's in place that allows the party A to cross over party B. And that's not a good thing not to have, and it's something that we are recommending as staff might be one of the things that staff will follow up with to ensure that the applicant come forward, just so that the owner of the neighboring property to the north that's allowing access agree to that easement. Because the nature of the thing is by doing a second accessory building, you're basically creating a wall of set. You have no legal access there anymore to the building. Equally, if there is an easement registered, it will also identify that the neighbor to the north who's allowing the easement, that they have limitations on how much accessory buildings they are able to build in the future. So we need to clean that up. Right now, the person is going through, they might have had, or the previous applicant may have had a tacit agreement, but in this day and age, you need it in law. And we don't have that, and that would be one recommendation that we would suggest would be included, because we have really no problem with respect to allowing the second accessory building in there. The second item on this in terms of staff review, and this comes from our building department, is that given that staff do not know where the northern property line is, whether it's 1.2 meters and all that, there's a requirement in the fire chief's regulation that says that you need a minimum separation of 1.8 meters from the property line, the northern property, to wherever that accessory building is. And that's something he requires, will be required as part of the building permit process. And it's one thing that we can't relax here through a development variance permit. So we gotta clean this stuff up now to make sure wherever that building is and where the lot line is gonna be 1.8 meters, because if it comes out in future that we haven't done the homework with the applicant and it's only 1.6 meters, we can't issue a building permit for the extent that they want. So we're putting that down more of as a heads up, knowing that there might be a potential problem. So with all of that, hopefully you're able to follow that. The end of going forward, we have no problem with issuing a variance permit because there's already been a precedent with the other building. But prior to staff issuing the variance permit, there's two things that we'd like to ensure be put in place or resolved. And once that happens, then we'll be able to issue the permit on behalf of council. Thank you.
Any questions? Councillor Scatzheim?
Yes, I'm just curious about the driveway let down. The city put in the curb, and did the driveway let down for the full length of the driveway, which includes the 1.22 meters?
Yeah. So if I may through the chair, cities will always put letdowns because the letdowns are usually on city right of way, not on private property. So what you're looking at, you may see the driveway there, but it may not be real land. It could be on the city's property. What we're worried about is where the right of way, city's right of way stops and the land going in. So, and we want to ensure that the owner of the north property has allowed the owner of the southern property the legal right to access her property or his property through that area. So the letdown, we can have letdowns that are all different dimensions, but those are usually put on city property, not on private property.
But if it, sort of traversed the property line, it seems odd that, yeah. Anyway,
There's a
I
lot
just,
of
was
odd
curious
things
about
that happen up there, but we're
Yeah,
trying to make sure
for
everything's
sure.
straight in planning.
Yeah.
Any other questions? The council? Okay, report dated January 19th from the Chief Financial Officer regarding Powell River Municipal Library operating budget cost sharing agreement.
Thank you, Council. I'm here today to present a preliminary report with respect to the operating budget agreement that we have with the regional district for helping to fund the library. We are in the process of concluding the negotiations with staff at the regional district to revise the agreement. We have provided you with a draft copy of the agreement with the track changes so you can see what's being proposed. I find that's a pretty effective way to see how it's being morphed over time. So at this point, we're providing it to council for your consideration, and it will be going forward to the regional district board as well for their approval. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions from council?
That's a good one.
No questions?
Through the chair,
So,
just a
Councillor Prom?
quick clarification. Has this come to the regional table yet?
Through the chair, it went to committee last Thursday, I believe.
Yeah. It has. Very good.
Well supported at committee, but it goes to board next week.
Thank you.
Okay, no questions then? Further questions? Councillor Selkirk?
Just through the chair, it went
Stepped in.
through the library board as well, with the attendance of representatives from the
Excellent.
RD, where the details were discussed.
Were
Thank you.
people smiling afterwards?
They were.
Thank you.
Through the chair, at the staff level, it was phenomenally anticlimactic.
Thank you.
That was your bright and shiny new interim CFO.
Yes. Okay, 5.7 verbal report from Chief Administrative Officer regarding sponsorship agreements with the Government of Canada to support refugees coming to Powell River.
Thank you, Your Worship. This verbal report refers to item 18 on your action list from October 13th, which was research details for sponsorship agreement with Canada to support refugees coming to Powell River. I've I'm bringing forward this report, but I have to acknowledge that Councillor Southcock, Scatchheim, and the Mayor have been heavily involved with welcoming refugees, and I think that's just a classic example of strategic community leadership. So this comes from last October, when we were all learning a lot more about how to host, formally welcome refugees. I'm happy to announce, largely through the Mayor's research and the two councillors, that there are 4 groups that have sponsorship agreement, are sponsorship agreement holders, by using the correct terminology. They all happen to be faith-based groups, but they've come together wonderfully as a collective. So I can say that there is no need for the city to hold the agreement. I know Councillor Scatchheim has commented about whether it should be one held by a group that's not faith-based. But I'm suggesting that in direct response to the question is we're more than covered with the sponsorship agreement holders. So the structure's in place. I think it's fair to say right now the intent is to be part of the 25,000 coming to the country, and we can consider other things in the future, but I think the municipality might, and I'm guessing might have a role to play in service provision of some sort when the time comes, which it might, for example, there might be a contribution in kind of some sort considered. That's a whole lot cleaner decision if you're not a sponsoring agreement holder. So it lets one of those holders make a request, and then you can deliberate on behalf of the municipality, but it's not quite so integral as if you're the holder. It would be analogous to you being a proponent of a piece of land while jurisdictionally making a decision on it. So I think it's a good setup the way it is.
Okay, Councillor Scatchheim?
Thank you, and thank you for that report, and it basically confirms what we've sort of, through the larger Welcome Refugee group, that yes, there are these already existing sponsorship agreement holders in town, and we're all, they're all working extremely well together and very cooperatively, and it's very refreshing to see at that level. So, but thank you for investigating that and reporting back. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I think that's what I get paid for.
No other questions? All right, we will move on to 5.8, report dated January 19th, 2016 from the Chief Administrative Officer regarding strategic priorities review.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If the previous report was clear and succinct, this one's out of the box. As my report says in the analysis section, I just want to review here. In reviewing the strategic community priorities, so as I've had a bit of a theme in reporting to you, there's strategic corporate priorities, which are items that you have directed us to do, for example, asset management. And then there are strategic community priorities, which might include the municipality, but definitely aren't limited to the municipality's action. So those are strategic community priorities. So in reviewing those, noted in the November 17, 2015 staff report, it was identified that considerable discussion and development of the listed priorities are required, such that staff cannot determine the timelines and resource requirements associated with priorities. And I have to apologize. I perhaps naively went from our workshop in October saying, sure, we can quantify these. We can just have strategic priorities. Back, as returning members council will remember, we had a fascinating day in November 2012. By February, I was back to each of your ideas had a line item, a resource cost, a designated staff member. When you start to get strategic, you need to involve more people, and it gets fuzzier. Okay, so I don't think the 3 returning council members who are here today will disagree with me. November 2012 was strategic, but it was also a get-it-done list to a brand new CAO who'd been on the job for 8 weeks at that point. Now you're thinking about strategic considerations. So in fact, if I continue with the text, in fact, staff should not be taking the lead on this work, but rather is submitted that through an appropriate form, submitted that members of council should be advancing a community-level discussion in each subcategory through an appropriate form, in concert with the objectives of community engagement as detailed in the municipal governance and communications policies. It continues on to say, these community discussions may identify that information needs to be garnered, partnerships forged, and initiatives advanced to the community, but not necessarily with the direct involvement of the municipality. This means that the traditional committee structure of local government is not the best forum for these community discussions, as it presupposes the municipality has a direct involvement and fuels a public expectation of municipal service provision. It is submitted that a new level of community engagement requires a new form of engagement. At the risk of complicating, there is an analogy that I use often. If the only tool you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Everything in our municipal structure, as hard as we work to engage the community, to be clear and not be cryptic, it all serves ultimately a decision of council. And generally that decision of council is not to do something or to direct staff to do it. So what happens if your search of a third option is encourage others to do something, foster others, facilitate others? It does not lend itself to that, our structure. Our structure is you're heading to a decision about provision of service or not. So what I'm suggesting, in the spirit of community engagement, is a roundtable. And a roundtable can be simply described, or done so in a complicated manner. But a roundtable, as my report speaks to, is a gathering where there is no intention to reach a consensus, to take a stand, to advance a policy, to make a commitment on behalf of any of the group. It's an information sharing activity, which I would suggest with a couple, as the report says, one or two members of council as members of that roundtable. You likewise are not committed in any way, shape, or form to provide a service, to do something in the traditional way, but you might influence others, others might influence you, and it falls within the realm of what we've been calling community liaison this term. So you go, you participate. I think you cannot help, as much as they say roundtables don't have leaders. You're elected, the group will look to you for leadership. I think what I'm suggesting is that the municipality convene these roundtables. The report also says a lot more details necessary, so I'm not seeking to sign up to this right now. But the idea is, in the spirit of community liaison and community engagement, is you participate in these, and then individually as members of council, make a decision whether there is some activity or action that you want to advocate back inside our traditional structure. And you would bring forward a new business item to this meeting, to a committee of the whole. Or you would report back, as we've now gotten into the habit of, report back to say, good things are happening. I look at Councillor Hathaway and Councillor Englishman and you think, affordable housing. There may be a role for municipality, direct service provision, land provision, or not. But if good things happen in affordable housing, that's the objective in our community. So the idea is that the roundtable is a gathering of interested souls that share information, influence each other, and out of that, individuals then go off and take action. Perhaps a partnership is forged, an initiative is identified, and perhaps a councillor comes back to this committee and convinces at least 3 other elected officials that the city should be involved, and it advances in a service provision decision. Madam Chair, I hope I'm being clear. I'm on a personal journey on this, because this year I'm celebrating 20 years in local government and 40 years in public service, and I've never been anywhere this fuzzy. I'm an old soldier, and it's a direct linear proportion in how you advance in life. So I am specifically saying that this is a report of what do you think about this concept so far, and would you like to direct staff to come back with a detailed plan? Because there are standing roundtables, there are one-of roundtables. The Industrial Roundtable of Europe has existed for 20 plus years and may or may not be terribly innovative anymore. We've had world cafes in this community, most recently with the regional rec process. which was a means on one evening to garner an input in small groups from a large number of people. That, there's all kinds of ways to skin the cat, but what I'm really suggesting in this report is, do you want to proceed with this concept at all? And if so, staff would be very happy to run with it and report back to you. So again, it's for the strategic community priorities on the premise that it requires, involves, and would be better off with a community level discussion, with all respect, more than just the 7 members of council, but with a wider group.
Thank you. Councillor Scatson.
Thank you, Mr. CIO. And yes, I think it's an intriguing idea. I think I quite like it. I would like to suggest that perhaps only 3 plans, or a detailed plan on 3 of the items, because the social planning in action, we already have tapping the groundswell coming up, and there will be a weekend, Friday and Saturday, 2-day conference, April 1st and 2nd, and the mandate of that is recommendation on social planning for the city. So social planning in action is already sort of happening through the groundswell project. So I don't know if you wanted to take that into consideration.
I hear you, Councillor. I seek the direction of Council.
Yeah.
Councillor Selkirk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Mr. CAO. I really like the direction of your report, and I think it, not just that it moves in a direction that seems to be emerging, if you will, organically in our community anyway, but it defines how specifically we can have a role as council in ways that we already are, and perhaps a less formal way than would be useful. Although saying that, I'm not entirely sure, because I know that as I've been invited to be, a part of this, that, or whatever, there is a lot of respect for the people who are inviting a council member, and I have real respect for that myself. However, to name things and define them, there's a great usefulness in that. So that's what I read coming through your suggestion, and I really appreciate that. I guess really that's all I had to say, because I'm going to sort of address a few other things in our representation reports, some community liaison reports. But I really feel that a lot of this is already happening for us. So thank you for providing definition and clarity in the fuzziness.
I like the idea of standing roundtables. And there is a lot happening already organically anyway, and we are hamstrung sometimes with our committee structure. There is a lot going on. The groundswell, although it's project based, so I'd like to see that carry on, even though the outcome is going to be a social policy and plan recommendation of the city. It'd be great to have a standing roundtable that sort of sees that through on an ongoing basis. I wouldn't want to lose sight through these roundtables on some of the plans we've got in place already, that we've committed to already, like the CEAP and the CNAP and some of the things outlined in our ICSP. So that would be a little concern of mine, but I'm sure those would come out in roundtables anyway.
If I could, through the chair, it is, and I speak to that there's a bleeding back and forth between the corporate and community strategic priorities, because the only reason the organization exists is to serve the public. So absolutely, corporately, there's an obligation to follow CEAP and CNAP and ICSP, but they also have to inform the sustainability roundtable at least.
So I like the recommendation, and I like the idea of a standing roundtable as opposed to a one-time event.
Okay, any other input, questions, Councillor Leishman?
Just a question about, so the 5 strategic corporate priorities that are identified since our strategic planning, are those now going to be reflected in directors' reports as whether an issue meets those corporate priorities?
Through the chair, my expectation is that I'll come back in what, if I can call the last iteration, the traditional way, what we did since November 2012, where that we have major implementation plans for 5 of those 6 corporate priorities right now, the 6th one being the regional rec that we're expecting to have within months. So yes, those lend themselves much more to being resourced and quantified. And you'll know which director is tasked to do which, and you'll be asked to anoint that in a way that I had naively perhaps thought we could also do with the strategic community priorities. I'm saying there's a difference. So the corporate priorities are definitely what staff is up and running with now. The strategic community priorities and the round tables might bring issues forward to be embedded in those corporate priorities or create new corporate priorities. But it's an effort to have a clear definition of you as counselors can be involved in a conversation which does not yet involve staff very much. And that's what the report will talk about. We're not going to suggest that you're adrift out there. There has to be some support in some way. But you can have a discussion that doesn't necessarily mean that it's got traditional ways of staff reports and such. So we're not about to throw the baby out with the bathwater. The 6 corporate priorities are still being fully implemented. And I will be back to you in a subsequent report with a resource bill and a timeline on those corporate priorities. Which, if I could, Madam Chair, which we started this exercise this term in saying this is a confirmation of where staff is already going. The directors, I'll quantify, but the directors understand those 5 major plans require implementation now. They're not needing further direction. I'll just inform you about how it's proceeding.
Okay, not hearing anything else to council? Council? Thank you. 5.9 community engagement reports. Anyone have a report today? Councilor Scatsheim?
Yeah, just quickly, I mentioned during the CAO's report there about the groundswell committee. Tapping the groundswell will be happening April 1st and 2nd. The dates have been chosen and the rec complex booked, so I hope everybody pencils that in. And also, ferry advisory committee. I think we all know the Queen of Burnaby is out until the end of the month, and we are limping along with the North Island Princess on the Earls Cove Sultry Bay route. And the Island Sky is taking over on the Comox route with a modified triangle run with Texada. The Burnaby should have entered dry dock yesterday, and hopefully we'll get an update on the assessment within the next couple of days and a better estimate of when it will be back in service. Currently it is approximately at the end of January. Customers who need to get to Vancouver and would like to travel via the Comox, the longer route and the more expensive route, can contact BC Ferries to be reimbursed for the excess expense of that. And it's been a little trying with that as far as customer service. I had one person who contacted customer service and was told they weren't allowed to do that because they weren't a commercial carrier. That's not what it says in the service notice, and that is not what the manager of public relations public affairs has assured me. It is open to anyone, but it is a case-by-case basis. It's not, you sort of have to make your case. It's really not a very good system, but it is not restricted to commercial vehicles.
Thank you. Councilor Subcott?
Thank you, Your Worship. I sit on the committee of the GP for Me Division of Family Practice, GP for Me project, and late last week I received an email one morning that had a deadline of I think 2 o'clock that afternoon for a reply. Basically what they wanted was signature, and so I signed it. This was an application to the Ministry of Health from the organization, the Division of Family Practice, GP for Me initiative, for a grant of very close to $82,000 to advance a program that they've got going on here. Now the program basically, First, maybe I'll just remind everybody that the Division of Family Practice is a joint provincial government and local general practitioner funded organization specifically for the support of new, particularly new GPs in town, and both social and cultural, etc., trying to keep them here. And also the encouragement or bringing new GPs to town. Another large prong of its purpose is to increase the number of local people in the catchment of the GPs who are here. So what they've done to facilitate that is to bring a nurse practitioner into town. Now, that nurse practitioner for a while practiced out of the emergency ward, and then a number of months ago was transferred over to the family tree clinic where 3 GPs practice. There's some real problems because nurse practitioners are compensated through the process, the same sort of process as hospitals are paid for generally, whereas GPs are in private, they're businessmen, or business people, they're in private practice, so trying to sort that out has been a problem. While they're doing that, while that process is occurring, they want to continue with this nurse practitioner, and the benefits basically are a really considerably increased access to primary care for particularly a higher risk section of the population, and those are seniors and chronically ill. Now, GPs tend not to want to take on a disproportionate number in that population because they generally take more time. Perhaps getting too much into detail here, but this is the justification for their application for this grant. So I signed the support of it on behalf of us all, and I was pretty confident that we would want to see $80,000 come into supporting this very worthwhile project that's already quite successful. There's some numbers in here if anybody's interested. I'll be glad to share that report. It is really quite successful. I think it's the main point here is to save society on money by keeping people out of both the emergency ward and also admission to acute care, which is the most expensive possible way we look after people in the healthcare system. If we could look after people with doctors, in doctors' offices, particularly these more complex patients, we'll save money because we'll keep a number of them out of acute care. This is proven statistically. So that's one. My latest news through the library board is that the final deal hasn't actually been signed yet, but it's just a technicality. And that was an email on Monday. It's becoming kind of a running joke on the
through the chair, can I be a bit more specific?
Yes, please.
The subdivision of the 2-story portion of the Crossroads Village Mall that the city is buying is in the hands of the land title office, and we've been told to expect it somewhere around the 1st of February for it to be complete.
Thank you.
So, the Literacy Council, the purpose of which is to encourage literacy across the board, but with children to a large degree. It's a committee involving representatives from education and the library and various other public service organizations, is putting on an event on February 5th from 1 to 2:30 in the afternoon at the complex. That's a Friday. It is their family day, and it's a skating event actually, but the connection to literacy is that when the little kids come off it's aimed at children. And this is a Pro D day from the schools, so that's another reason why that day was chosen. When the kids come off the ice, there's going to be hot chocolate and stories. So, great event. And we've been invited, so I'll certainly turn up, and I think I forwarded that invitation to us all. I just received an email also from Carrie Carlson, who is now, it sounds like, taking the reins over from the Powell River District Wellness Challenge that Dr. Ron Wasnow came and spoke with us about. Anyway, they're also looking for a representative to liaise with council. So I said that I would bring that here, and if none of the rest of us wanted to jump at that opportunity, because I am involved with a lot of similar initiatives, particularly GP for Me, it probably would make sense for me to connect with them as well. I've also been involved with an initiative that they put on last fall up at James Thompson School and the other one. Is that the end of my time?
We arranged that.
Okay, anyway, enough of that. I also was recently approached by a group that's inspired by the recent Paris conference that they're calling themselves Climate Action Committee. This is a group that's already coming together, and they're putting together a presentation that they want to bring to council. Their specific objective is to do with reduction of emissions and energy. So it's bubbling, and I attended a meeting to kind of advise them a little bit on what might work for us or not. So I just mentioned that. I haven't officially connected with that group, but we can expect a presentation from them sometime, I think in the near future. And that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other reports on community engagement? Councilor Combs?
Quickly, through the chair, I just want to make this information available to all of council, especially Councilor Leishman, who's spearheading the Youth Council initiative, and that is, I was approached or got an email last week from Jump Radio, I believe it is, from the president, Carrie Swigum, yeah. And she's interested in coming to Brooks, talking to our principal, Jamie Burt, and myself about youth involvement on the radio. So this might be a good synergy to put together with that initiative, and I'll feel her out next Tuesday, bring you the information, and we'll go forward for that. So that's one. And secondly, dual credit offerings happening this week, Thursday, for academic, trades, technical programs through our local campus with VIU. And I double booked myself for this Thursday evening, so I'm hoping all of council are going to be here on Thursday night, because I'll be at Brooks, filling seats for VIU and talking to parents and students. And I will also be attending a workshop put on by the ministry in Victoria on March 10th, talking about academics and dual credit. We were lucky this year to be able to offer that to a number of our youth locally, keep them here, save money. And we're hoping to continue that practice, and I will be advocating loudly to the ministry that rural communities really need this helping hand to retain our youth, school them here for the first year, and being able to transfer anywhere in the across Canada with those valuable courses under the belt. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Leishman?
I just wanted to mention that the Youth Council questionnaire survey is now up on the website, and the extension date is February 12th. for applicants ages 13 to 23 to apply.
Okay, and did you do an interview today?
I did an interview
Yeah.
on Coast FM, whichever station that applies, Coast, and I don't know if that's the Vancouver Island station as well, but, because it was out of
I
the
probably
island.
will be
so-
on the island
Yeah,
as well.
so Coast FM interview over the phone, so.
Excellent. Councillor Brewer?
Yeah, just a question for Councillor Palm, follow up on the academics at VIU. Do we have an idea how many courses, first year credit courses they're offering?
Well, I can give you an example. I'm not sure what's going to come out of the meeting March 10th, but for this year, for example, a student while they're in grade 12 can take 2 academics in their second semester, and they can follow it up the following year with another 4 courses that we'll pay tuition for. So basically, you're getting 6 course credits if you want to go in that manner, and they are roughly $500 a head. So it's a $3,000 saving, and you get to live at home and save all that expense, not having to travel out of Powell.
And if in March then is part of the intention to try and get more courses offered at VIU?
Well, we want to certainly retain.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee, but we will be speaking loud and clear in that regard.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry. I just have to say, I really appreciate that from a personal standpoint. My nephew's involved, and it's just terrific.
Okay, thank you. I just want to quickly, as everyone knows, I've been the mayor this month. And,
Everyone knows.
I thoroughly enjoyed the opportunity, but it's a busy job, and I have a quick little overview of just some of the things that I've done up to today while the mayor's been away, and I haven't been here at the office. This is things outside of the office, so I'll just give you a quick rundown. And I have a new appreciation for the position and the job that Mayor Promoter does. Don't tell him, but. So I'll just give a quick little overview. We have a lot happening this month. So on January 6th, I did a quick little interview with Radio Canada, and that is TV. I initially thought that it was radio several years ago and got caught on that. It's the French TV station. They were doing a little human interest story on Powell River and why people should invest and live here. And they were also doing a little tour around Townsite Brewery, which I got to comment on and how proud we are of that. So I'm not sure when that story is going to be airing, but I hope I do get the information so I can share that. That evening, I attended the Prisma 2016 kickoff reception and the debut of Tony Papa's video on last summer's celebration of the census and the liberation of Holland by Canada during World War II. And it was really a moving video. They've interviewed some Dutch people that have moved here and were there in the war, and it's a really well done video. And they didn't have a speak till after. So I had to get up and speak, and you're like all full of emotion and everything from this video. But and the exciting news is that this coming June, Prisma's going to be doing a symphony celebration. Tobin Stokes will be writing something, and it's all in connection with Slam and its treaty. So that's kind of exciting. There'll be a whole Slam component to the Prisma event, and that was about all the detail he had, but that was exciting. On the 11th, I had some meetings and phone calls around a bus service between Powell River and Vancouver. I'm trying to get some sort of private contractor, and wearing my provincial hat, I'm trying to assist in getting some vehicles and getting something temporary. I don't want to be responsible for something permanent. It could turn into something permanent, but even just some sort of temporary bus service. So that's moving forward, not as quickly as I would like, but dealing with the minister's office and that sort of thing. So hopefully we will have something on that front. On January 13th, I met with Mark Collins, the Vice President of Strategic Planning and Community Engagement for BC Ferries, along with Vice President for Customer Services, Corinne Story, and Patrick Brabazon, Sandy McCormick, and Kim Barton Bridges were also at the meeting. His first comment was, no, I won't tell you how much we sold the Queen of Chilliwack for. And we went on from there, and basically it was a very nice meeting to commend the staff at BC Ferries. they've been under a whole lot of pressure and trying to do what they can with what they've got to work with. So they were very appreciative that, generally speaking, customers have been nice about things. And I know we all get frustrated with not being able to get where we're going, but we're limping along, and hopefully those issues will be resolved somewhat next month. And on the 14th, I attended the Regional District Committee of the Whole, and one of the interesting items that caught my attention that evening was a concern by residents that there's no mechanism to call a by-election should a director be off sick for an extended period of time, which is the case right now with Director Gisborne. So the residents, I've directed them to whom they should contact and move this forward, because it looks like it needs a legislative change in order to correct that. But it was just an interesting item that caught my eye. And on the 16th, I attended the wellness fair at Nourish Yoga. I met local health practitioners from Powell River Healing Collective and learned a little bit about acupuncture, massage, herbalism, chiropractics, and attended some of the talks that they had individuals giving. So that was a nice event, and your wife was there. I hope she enjoyed it. And on the 18th, I did an early morning, 7 in the morning, interview with CBC on the island in connection with the feral rabbit issue. You know, they phoned and I thought, okay, BC Fair, no, they wanted to talk about feral rabbit. Really? So just gave an overview of what the motion was that council passed and where we're heading with that matter. And I attended the Powell River Local Governance Liaison Vancouver Coastal Health meeting yesterday, and I had an opportunity to speak about the issue of dialysis and a possible shortage of equipment here and people having to travel elsewhere for dialysis. And I had a long conversation with Providence Health in Vancouver, who run the program here this afternoon, or just before I came here actually, and that's moving forward. So it looks like there's some positive things happening there. So that's just been a few of the things I've done since the beginning of the month. So we have another half a month. I thought I'd do half now and then have the next committee of the whole present whatever else happens. So thank you. My computer went off. I talked so long, yikes. Okay, next item. Action list.
Okay, so the action list is attached in your agenda. Just a quick summary that 8 items have been removed, in fact, from December 3rd, number 3, the inquiry to the regional district about potential impacts of Crown land license. A copy of the letter was sent to the ministry, and it was copied to the regional district and to community forest as well. Under November 17th, item 13 is complete as of today. November 13th, item 18 was also reported on today. May 19th, item 27, and these were, I believe, referring to items on related to the traffic bylaw. And then August 21st, 2014, item 32, September 12th, 2013, items 35 and 36, and all the way back from September 20th, 2012, item 37, again related to traffic bylaw review. And you will see from all the yellow in your action list copy that a number of the dates have been moved as well. And I should also offer a correction. I believe on that report it says for July 16th, 25th, item 24 is complete, and that will actually be coming to you in February. So are there any comments about that?
Anybody have any questions, comments?
Yeah, on item 7, the request for geotech and hydrologist reports from Catalyst and IT. Just curious if that request was
My understanding is that has not been done at this point. Yeah.
And item 19, regarding a report with recommendations regarding making application to the ALC to include 30 acres of our airport reserve land within the ALR. I know it's got a date of return for May, and I know you can't link ALC applications specifically, but I'd really like to see that one come to us sooner rather than later, given sign and write proposal and I know it's a staff resourcing issue, but I'd like to see that sooner rather than later, if at all possible. Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
No news yet, but Director Knight's about to hire an assistant, and we'll be able to put more through the planning.
Are you happy about that? Councilor Scott?
Thank you. I notice the item 32 is marked as done, and there is discussion.
Thank you, yeah. Did you want to speak to that one?
I was hoping.
It shouldn't be done.
Yeah, okay.
We are still, as council's aware, dealing with at least the Coast Guard.
Yes.
Down there.
Okay.
And if the Coast Guard chooses to take up occupancy here at the old barge facility, there's still the actual remainder of the building, almost the entire building that we still have to deal with. So, what will happen is, if the Coast Guard confirms, then we're expecting to come back to you and say, no longer can we call it disposal, we're talking about reuse.
So I just don't want it to just
we'll
drop off into nowhere land.
We'll take that off.
Yeah, we can.
And if I could, through the chair, number 4, electric vehicle charging station installation. The one right out that window is operational.
Yes.
In the back. And the one at North Harbor, the Director of Infrastructure just confirmed will be operational at the end of the month. So we will have some press about this. And Tom, tell me, how many electric car operators do you have in town now?
The last we had from one of the people who just bought a car says she knows of 6 that now have vehicles.
So it's our intention to invite the electric car operators to meet with council and to celebrate and profile. The electric charging stations are our service, but it's also a community profile. We can now say that you can, and to give credit, I have to say Todd English in a specific point has been operational for some time, but we're now on the grid for electric charging stations.
And all of council's getting a Tesla?
No, just get a Tiara, ma'am.
Darn. Okay, moving on, 7.1, social public procurement. I see my name under that. Councillor Leishman and myself met some time ago with Sandra Hamilton, and there was some of you that attended, I think, the workshop at UBCM on social public procurement. By mistake, I printed off the whole report. I didn't need to. If anyone would like it, I have it. And just to save time and effort, Campbell River staff had done a very nice report to their council, so I just borrowed it. And the recommendation was that staff investigate and report back on options to adopt and implement a social public procurement policy. So I don't know if council's interested in investigating that further, or have a nod, so
Yes.
take this to council?
Yes.
Okay, to council.
So the report from Campbell River is going to council?
Well, no, staff should, oh, well, we could do that, sure. I don't see why we couldn't.
Through the chair, can I suggest that you complete the compliment and plagiarize the resolution of Campbell River? Staff investigate and report back on options to adopt and implement a social public procurement policy.
Okay, and in case this gets elsewhere, thank you, Campbell River. We appreciate your efforts. So we can do that.
So I suggest that as a motion for you to consider.
And that's a direction to stop, so you
Or
can do that
direction
here.
now.
What I'm suggesting is that you steal the resolution, so you make that motion now and refer it to council.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? Carried. Lastly, motion to go in camera. Who would like to make that motion? Councillor Scatton?
I move that following adjournment of this regular meeting, council move in camera to discuss a land matter, and that the meeting be closed to the public on the grounds that the subject matter to be considered relates to matters covered by the community charter under sections 90 sub 1 sub e, the disposition or acquisition of land or improvements, the disclosure of which council considers could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Leishman? Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Questions? Any questions, Mr. Richardson?
Thank you. For the benefit of the Madam Clerk, I typed out my question because it's a bit complicated, so I'll just give it to you after finish. The question is related to one of the reports at 5.3 tonight by the Director of Planning. So since I've typed it out, I'll just read it. My question is related to the report given by the Director of Planning Services regarding a proposed partial exclusion from the ALR to permit the development of a private school campus and dormitories. At the last paragraph on page 2 of his report, Analysis and Impact, the Director explained that the actual legal boundary of the subject property also includes the looped area that was discussed earlier at this meeting, contained within the adjoining Timberlane Estates residential subdivision. In other words, with reference to Schedule 1 and Appendix B within the Director's report, the identified additional land area and the loop road on it are actually within the adjacent agricultural land reserve. So my question is, with respect to any application made to it in this regard, did the Agricultural Land Commission inform this city of any decision by it approving construction of the loop road as described in the Director's report?
So, yeah, that's a complicated question that...
So the question really is, the construction of the loop road in the report, did the Agricultural Land Commission inform the city that the construction of that loop road was in fact approved by the Agricultural Land Commission?
Okay, so, and again, I think that'll probably require some research, and we're gonna have a written copy of your question, so I think maybe what I'd like to do is just instruct staff to do a bit of investigation and get back to you on that question.
Yeah.
Because they'll need to do some research and see what was done, if anything, and,
Well, the law is the commission must provide the city with a decision.
Thank you. Okay, yeah,
Okay,
and
so
we will have the staff do
that's
an
the question,
investigation
yeah.
and get back to you on that one, because
Yeah.
I, for one, certainly wouldn't have any answer to that off the top of my head.
Mr. Knight's here, should be able to answer that.
Okay, are there any other questions?
No.
No
Thank
other
you.
questions? Okay, we are adjourned. Oh, we need a motion, sorry.
So moved.
To adjourn, seconder, Councilor Leishman, all in favor? Carried. Okay, now we're adjourned at 5:32. Thank you, everybody.